So I've been in the wealth management business for the past 9 years. I've been in banking for 20 years. And one of the areas that I found there was a huge need for was helping business owners as it relates to exiting their business, specifically business succession planning. Now, being in wealth management, I worked for two really good banks, and there was a lot of focus on working with business owners once they sold the business or once the business succession plan was executed in terms of financial planning, investment management, trust and estate. But a lot of those areas are very important to have already in place prior to the business exit. And what I found was, and I was just as guilty as anybody else, is we would step into this situation a little bit too late. And there was a lot of areas that we missed as it relates to tax mitigation, trust and estate planning, as well as maximizing the value for the business for those owners that we were selling to a third party. So about 2 years ago, I noticed this as being a big gap, and I felt that it was really important to make sure that I was able to contribute and provide some type of value on the front end. So I decided to start Harvest Wealth Strategies, purely focused on helping business owners as they lead up to the exit of their business. Now, as I mentioned in many different videos, there's multiple ways you can exit your business, but ultimately what I found is that business owners want to leave a lasting legacy. So whether it's they're selling to a third party, whether it's they're passing it down to family, selling to employees, at the end of the day, there's a legacy that they want to leave. And so that's a big part of the succession planning. And what I found was there really wasn't a whole lot of people out there that were helping business owners create that legacy. So at Harvest Wealth Strategies, that is our primary focus. And it's the main reason why I want to work with business owners, because it gives me an opportunity to help understand what's important to you, to make sure that we have the right plan in place so that when you do go to exit your company, whichever way you choose, there's two things that happen. One, you get the maximum value for your company. And number two, you pay the least amount of taxes. Now, as a business owner, you've sacrificed a lot. You've most likely started your business from nothing, and you probably have spent the first 5, 7, probably even 10 years barely making ends meet because you're reinvesting a lot of that money that you are making back into the business. So you want to make sure that you get rewarded for all that time, sweat, hard work that you put into the business. And that's where the 2 to 5 year window is extremely critical. You don't want to wait to the last minute. And so that's why we really encourage our clients to start planning about 5 years out, ideally at the very minimum 2 years. And here's a couple reasons why. First and foremost, by planning at least 5 years ahead of time, we can identify what is the proper exit strategy that we want to follow. There's areas that we can work on to clean up your business. And there's also areas within your personal financial situation that we can help as it relates to identifying areas such as your number, risk management, ways to diversify your assets so that not everything is tied to the business. So we can do a lot of that front end work with that much time in place. As you get closer to the exit, we kind of lose the ability to take advantage of some of those strategies, and it's still fine. There's still a lot that we can do. It's just more in a compressed time, and we don't get to necessarily take advantage of some of the tax planning that we can do if done that 5-year time period. One of the main reasons I love working with business owners is because I love hearing their stories. In a lot of cases, you hear the rags to riches, the fact that they started their business from a garage or a small office and spent those years grinding and building what they have in terms of a very successful business down the line. It's great to hear these stories, and I absolutely love it. One of the things that always bothers me, though, is that when they get to the point where they are looking to get that reward or the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, the lack of planning results in them not getting as much value for their company and overpaying when it comes to taxes. And so as I talk to business owners, that's one of the things that really gets me excited and why I feel very good about what I do in terms of helping business owners with succession planning. Being in the wealth management business, as I've mentioned, We were able to do a lot after the sale of the business. And it was one of those things that, unfortunately, and I was just as guilty as anybody else, it was more of business owners would come to us, we'd spend some time with them, talk about some different strategies at a high level, but then it was more or less, hey, we kind of gave you the overview. Now, once you get the check, once the check's in the mail, come see us and we'll map out a full plan for you. And I didn't really like that approach. And it was one of the main reasons why I decided to start Harvest Wealth Strategies is I wanted to make sure that there was somebody on the front end helping business owners take advantage of all the hard work and effort that they've put into the business, doing the proper planning. So at the time that they were ready to exit, they would maximize and get that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that they've worked so hard to get to. And so as you look at how you're planning for your business succession, it's important to keep a lot of things in mind. But what I've ultimately found out is that in the majority of the cases, it's not necessarily the dollar amount. It's not necessarily the fact that the business owner gets to, what I found is that for the most part, most business owners are concerned more about legacy than they are necessarily getting a big check. A lot of business owners I talk to, again, I love working with them because despite all the hard work and effort they had to put into the business to grow it, they're one of the first to look at ways that they can take care of their employees, take care of their family. It's always about taking care of somebody, not necessarily themselves. So that's really something that inspires me to want to work with them, but at the same time, also educate them on how they can do both, how they can help out their employees, how they can take care of their family, but most importantly, take care of themselves. You don't want to have a situation where, you've put in all that time and effort, you've grown the business, and then at the end of the day, you're not able to leave that legacy that you were looking to leave. So there was a couple things that I would see that were very common once an owner exited their business. Number one, there was regret. In fact, most of the time, there was a lot of regret because they felt they could have handled the process differently. They weren't sure if they got the maximum value for their company. But more importantly, they felt taken advantage of. And when I say taken advantage of, it was from a tax standpoint. So again, as business owners, a lot of times you've sacrificed so much for so many years, you don't want to have to give a big chunk of that wealth away to taxes. And that's a lot of times what I would find is that tax bill would be very surprising to them, and they wouldn't realize the fact that they got this big dollar amount, but a significant chunk of that was going to go to taxes. And that's why I work very hard with my clients to make sure that that is not a surprise. One of my number one goals is to make sure that when you exit your business, you know exactly how much in taxes you're going to pay, and that we are going to minimize that as best as possible. So you don't want to be in a situation where all that hard work, all that effort that you've put into your business doesn't get rewarded, because when you get that final payday, you're losing a lot of that wealth that you've worked so hard to build. Another reason why I enjoy working with business owners is because you truly are the backbone of the economy. Everything that you do creates jobs, it creates wealth. And you're constantly looking at different ways to improve how we do things, become more effective, become more efficient, more innovative. And so, again, as business owners, I'm very, very appreciative of all that you do. And it's one of the reasons why I always want to make sure that I do everything in my power, once again, to help you create that legacy that you are looking to leave based on the fact that you have done so much. At the end of the day, you've done something that very few people are willing to do. You've sacrificed time with your family, your friends, you've missed holidays, birthdays, you've made sacrifices from a financial standpoint. Again, chances are for the first 7 to 10 years of running your business, you probably only took just enough out of the business to pay your bills, because you were doing the right thing by reinvesting that money into your business. So you're doing something that actually less than 7% of people actually are successful at. So there are many people out there that glamorize being an entrepreneur. I've actually seen firsthand how challenging it is. And it's not the situation where oh, I can make my own schedule and take vacations whenever I want. You're working 24/7. You're putting in the time, right? You're making a lot of sacrifices for your business. And it's a real good reason why I love working with people that are making those sacrifices. And if I can help you just take advantage of all that hard work and create that additional wealth for you and your family, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I make that happen. So, I'm going to share just a little bit of adversity that I've had in my life and how thankful I am that I've gone through some of these challenges. So, about 2 years ago, I was laid off. I was in a wealth management group of a bank as a private banker. There was some restructuring done, and as a result, my position was eliminated. At the time, it was very frustrating. I have a family, and I wanted to make sure I take care of my family. The last thing I wanted to do is lose my job. During that time frame, I felt, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. I have the skill sets. Shouldn't be a problem for me to find a new position. Had a very challenging time finding one. And in fact, I'll never forget this day when I finally did get that opportunity. I remember going into that last, I wouldn't even call it an interview. It was a last meeting with a senior leader within this bank. And so it was pretty much a done deal. I was going to most likely get the job. And I remember walking back to my car and really thinking about, is this the right decision? During this time period from when I had been laid off to when I was, about ready to take this job, it was about 3 months. And during that time, I had a lot of time to reflect and really get an understanding of what I wanted to do. And so at the time, I was kind of kicking around the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, starting my own business. And I remember as I was walking back to my car, I got in my car and I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to start my own business. And I remember getting back to my house, I drew up the email, was going to thank them for the interview and the opportunity, but that I was going to go ahead and pass and start my own business. And I literally sat there for about 30 minutes before I pressed send. And when I did press send, it was a huge sense of relief, but then also a huge sense of fear, because going from a paycheck to going into something where there was no guarantee, I knew the hard work and effort that was going to go into it. It was scary. Best decision I ever made. I learned over the last year and a half, actually 2 years, what it's like to be an entrepreneur, the type of challenges that you have to face and overcome, the good, the bad, the ugly. And over the course of 2 years, it's really what led me to where I'm at today, which is doing what I can to help business owners that have done all this hard work and effort successfully leave the legacy that they want to leave. And so, as I mentioned, at the time, it was pretty frustrating, but in the end, I was able to do what I'm doing now, which is something I'm super passionate about. I love providing value. And if I can just help business owners get past that threshold and realize the legacy that they've worked so hard to build, to me, that's a success. All right, I'm going to share a very controversial opinion right now, and that is that I am greedy. I want to make as much money as I possibly can, and I want to make as much money as I possibly can from my clients. Now, I pause there for a reason, because I'm sure the first thought process, I can't believe he said that. But I'm going to explain why. I'm going to first start off by giving credit to David Meltzer. He's somebody that I admire a lot, and somebody that completely turned my mindset as it relates to giving and receiving. And now you always hear the fact that those who give will receive, which is absolutely 100% right. And I'm a true believer in that if you do the right thing and you give to others, you will receive. But where David changed my mindset on this is that you can only give what you receive. And so in order for you to give more, you have to receive more, right? So when it comes to business owners, myself, anybody that is looking to accumulate wealth, they shouldn't be looked upon negatively, because in the end, by being able to grow wealth and build wealth, it gives them more opportunity to give. Now, whether or not they give, that's up to them. But at the end of the day, the concept of this I really, really like, because if you are trying to build wealth, you are putting yourself in a position to help others out. So I'm going to actually share something with you that I was very, very cautious about sharing because of the perception that I might have, which is this guy is just out here to make money off his clients. And the answer is yes, I am. But here's the reason why. So if you look over here, many people talk about a vision board, something that they create every year. I don't believe in vision boards. I believe in long-term goals. And so what you see here, and you might not be able to see very clearly, is this very uneven pyramid that I drew with some of my core values. There's three main core values, and there's a dollar amount at the top. So the dollar amount at the top is what type of wealth I want to create in terms of recurring income per year, which is right now sitting at 500,000. I try to change that to $1 million because I want to be a little bit more aggressive. So we'll use the number $1 million. So right off the bat, it's, hey, I want to make $1 million from the fees that I am collecting from my clients. So right off the bat, negative connotation, right? He wants to make, money off of me as a business owner. But here's the reason why. So autonomy. I started a business, as most of you have done, to have the autonomy to basically do what I wanted to do in terms of create a business, provide value, help others. Number two is lifestyle and family. I don't think any of us do this to not improve the status of our life, whether that's spending more time with family, whether that's providing more for your family. Even if you're looking to just live a greater lifestyle, there's nothing wrong with that. And then giving back. To me, I'm very passionate about philanthropy. For me personally, my two passions are financial literacy and then also helping disadvantaged children. So, my dream is to be able to give back as it relates to organizations like Junior Achievement, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And going back to what I originally talked about at the beginning of this video, I can't do that unless I build the wealth that I want to build so that I can do some of these core values. All right, so let's talk about the pyramid. So the pyramid, this beautiful pyramid that I drew out here, what is this thing? So as I mentioned before, I know that this is going to take time. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. Again, for those of you that are business owners and entrepreneurs, I'm sure you can appreciate the fact that you don't get into this knowing that you're going to become a multimillionaire overnight. It's going to take time, 5, 7, 10 years before you start to realize your dream and start making the type of wealth or building the type of wealth that you're expecting from your business. So each one of these represents a brick to build a pyramid to the top. And I've actually counted, and I was very intentional in putting these out here, that basically it's going to take me 5 years to get to my $1 million a year in recurring income. How do I check the bricks off? It's not just every day that I check the bricks off. I actually have a journal here, and I'll actually show it to you. So I have a journal, and there's 5 critical tasks that I put on my daily goal. If I hit those 5 critical tasks, I basically mark off a brick. So as you can see, this journal right here, I actually started this back in March of last year. So this is probably about a year and a half. So every day I put 5 critical tasks that I need to do to move me and my business forward, whether that's personal development, whether that's helping my business move forward. If I accomplish that, I mark off a brick. Again, I'm going to give credit to Andy Frisella on this because it's something that he shared as one of the ways that you can achieve your goal as a business owner is to create that momentum and what he calls win the day, win the week, win the month, win the year. And so you don't necessarily have to win every day, but you need to win enough days to win the week. You need to win enough weeks to win the month, so on and so forth. So I've built this pyramid so that I can get to that $1 million per year. So go back to the beginning of the video, right? The first thing I said was I want to make $1 million off my clients. That's what I'm here for. Nobody does this for free. As business owners, you understand that. You need to make sure that you make money within your business as well. Here's the catch, though. I have a guarantee with the clients that I work with. If I can't 10x my fee with you, meaning if I can't provide 10 times the fee that you pay me in terms of taxes you save or value that you build within the business, I will refund you my fee. I will have basically worked for free. So the way that I look at this is if I'm making $1 million per year, that means that I am giving back $10 million to my clients in the way of tax savings or increasing the value of their business. So again, going back to what Dave Meltzer mentioned, completely turned my mind around where I was fearful of sharing this because I didn't want to think that people wouldn't want to work with me because of the fact that I'm trying to make so much in terms of fees from my clients. But at the end of the day, I actually feel really comfortable and confident sharing this because I'm doing it because I know I can provide the level of value. And if I'm making that much money, my clients are making 10 times that money. So that's what I wanted to share. Again, the whole concept and idea around this is you can only give what you get. So if I'm only making $100,000, that means I'm only providing $1 million worth of value to my clients, to the economy. So my goal is to try to make as much wealth as possible so that I'm able to give more wealth. So in my position, there's not very many individuals that can guarantee those types of results. I'm very well knowledgeable about the different ways that you can structure your business to save on taxes, things that you can do within your business that will increase the value. And that's why I give 100%, refund guarantee. If I'm not able to deliver 10 times what I charge you in a fee, I will give you what you've paid me back. So I wanted to share this. Again, I do think it's something that's very beneficial for all of you, especially the young entrepreneurs that are just starting your business. Have that long set mind. I would encourage a lot of you young entrepreneurs and even seasoned business owners to have something like this. It's visual, but understand that it is going to take time. This is not something that just happens overnight. I know everything's glorified through social media where you see all these, people that supposedly become overnight millionaires and they have all these different flashy cars and houses and everything else. You ask any true business owner that's built a business, he or she will tell you it does not happen overnight. It looks like it happens overnight because when they do get to that final payday, they get a nice check. But that took years to build. And so for me, and I would encourage all of you to do the same thing, make sure that you understand and know going into being an entrepreneur that there is a long-term commitment here and that you're going to need to stay the course.